Selena Quintanilla. On March 31st, 1995, the world of Tejano music was shattered. Selena Quintanilla, the 23-year-old queen of the genre, was at the Days Inn motel in Corpus Christi, Texas. She wasn't there for a vacation. She was there to confront a problem. Her name was Yolanda Saldívar. Yolanda wasn't just the president of Selena's fan club, she was a trusted manager of her boutiques, an insider who had worked her way deep into the singer's inner circle. But money had been going missing, thousands of dollars. Selena's father, Abraham, had noticed the discrepancies. The family had noticed, and they had warned her. But Selena, ever trusting, wanted to handle it herself. She agreed to meet Yolanda at the motel to retrieve financial documents that would prove the embezzlement. The meeting turned into a confrontation. Yolanda stalled, made excuses, and then claimed she had been raped in Mexico to distract Selena and delay handing over the papers. When Selena finally demanded the documents and tried to leave the room, Yolanda pulled a .38 caliber revolver from her purse. A single shot rang out. The hollow point bullet tore through Selena's right shoulder from behind, severing the subclavian artery and ripping through her chest wall. Critically wounded, she didn't just collapse. Adrenaline and sheer will took over. Selena stumbled out of the room, across the parking lot, leaving a blood trail over 100 feet long. She burst into the hotel lobby, clutching her chest, screaming, "Help me! Help me! I've been shot!" Before she collapsed from massive blood loss, she used her final breaths to identify her killer. Her last word was the name of the woman who had betrayed her, Yolanda. By the time paramedics arrived, it was too late. The vibrant, beloved star was pronounced dead at 1:05 p.m., murdered by the very person who was supposed to be her biggest fan. Yolanda fled in her pickup truck and led police on a 9-hour standoff before surrendering. She was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. Michael Jackson, June 25th, 2009. The king of pop was dead. But Michael Jackson didn't die on a stage or in a tragic accident. He died in his own bed, in a rented mansion at 100 North Carrollwood Drive in Holmby Hills, Los Angeles. And the circumstances were just bizarre. For weeks, Michael had been preparing for his massive This Is It comeback tour, 50 sold-out shows at the O2 Arena in London. The rehearsals were grueling, and he was suffering from chronic, debilitating insomnia. So, he did what any global superstar with unlimited resources would do. He hired a personal physician, Dr. Conrad Murray, for $150,000 a month. His primary job? To help Michael sleep. And Murray's method was unconventional, to say the least. He turned the pop star's lavish bedroom into a makeshift operating room. Every night, he would administer a cocktail of sedatives, lorazepam, midazolam, culminating in an IV drip of propofol, a powerful surgical anesthetic. You know, the stuff they use to knock you out completely from major surgery. Michael called it his milk because of its white color. On that final morning, after a long night of failed attempts with lesser sedatives, Murray gave in to Michael's desperate pleas and started the propofol drip around 10:40 a.m. Then, he left the room. He made phone calls. He checked emails. He was gone for extended periods. There was no heart rate monitor, no pulse oximeter, no proper medical equipment whatsoever. When Murray finally returned, Michael Jackson wasn't breathing. Instead of immediately calling 911, Murray panicked, performing CPR incorrectly on the soft bed and trying to hide evidence. By the time paramedics were finally called at 12:21 p.m., nearly an hour after he stopped breathing, it was a hopeless situation. The king of pop died from what the Los Angeles County coroner ruled a homicide, acute propofol intoxication. A prosecutor later said Michael died so quickly, he didn't even have time to close his eyes. It was like a clandestine surgery without any of the safeguards, performed every single night until it went horribly, fatally wrong. Liam Payne, October 16th, 2024. In Buenos Aires, Argentina, the life of former One Direction star Liam Payne came to a shocking and brutal end. He was just 31 years old. Liam was staying at the upscale Casa Sur Palermo hotel, reportedly to support his former bandmate Niall Horan on tour. He had been sharing happy photos from Buenos Aires on social media just days before. But in the hours leading up to his death, his behavior had become increasingly erratic and disturbing. On his final night, things escalated dramatically. Hotel staff grew so concerned that they made two separate 911 calls. In the first, the chief receptionist reported a guest who was high on drugs and was trashing the entire room. The line cut out. In the second call, the same receptionist, a man named Esteban, sounded desperate. He told the operator, "We've got a guest who has had too many drugs and alcohol. We need you to send someone urgently because, well, I don't know whether his life may be in danger. He is in a room with a balcony." His fear was tragically prophetic. Police and medics were dispatched, but before they could intervene effectively, Liam fell from the third-floor balcony, a drop of about 43 to 46 feet. The impact was catastrophic. The autopsy would later reveal he suffered from polytrauma, with at least 25 distinct injuries: massive head trauma, hemorrhaging in the head, chest, abdomen, and limbs. Toxicology found alcohol, cocaine, and a prescription antidepressant in his system. He was likely unconscious or semi-conscious when he went over, as there were no defensive wounds. He never had a chance. The chaos didn't end there. Almost immediately, social media was flooded with conspiracy theories and fake videos claiming to show his final moments, a grim digital second death that spread faster than confirmed details. It was a terribly modern tragedy, a young star publicly battling his demons, ending his life in a violent, lonely fall, his death instantly becoming distorted content for the internet's consumption. Aaliyah, August 25th, 2001. Aaliyah Dana Houghton, the 22-year-old princess of R&B, was on top of the world. She was in the Abaco Islands, Bahamas, wrapping up the music video for her new single, Rock the Boat. The shoot was ethereal, beautiful, filmed on a yacht under the Caribbean sun. It was supposed to be another step in her ascent to superstardom. Instead, it became the backdrop for a completely avoidable tragedy. The crew wrapped filming earlier than expected, and everyone was eager to get back to Florida. Instead of waiting for their scheduled charter, the decision was made to hop on a smaller twin-engine Cessna 402B that was available right then. It was a fatal mistake. The plane was dangerously overloaded. The group's luggage and video equipment pushed the aircraft to 4,117 pounds, hundreds of pounds over its maximum safe takeoff weight. But that wasn't even the worst of it. The pilot, Luis Morales III, was not certified to fly that specific aircraft. He had reportedly faked his license qualifications, and an autopsy would later reveal he had cocaine and alcohol in his system at the time of the flight. He had pleaded no contest to cocaine possession just 12 days before. The plane struggled to get into the air. It lifted off the runway, climbed to maybe 100 feet, then veered sharply to the left and plunged nose first into a marsh just seconds after takeoff. The impact was devastating. The plane burst into flames. Aaliyah and 5 others were killed instantly from blunt force trauma and burns. 3 more succumbed to their injuries shortly after. All 9 people on board were dead. The official cause was aviation accident due to overloading and pilot error, but that's the clinical term. The reality is, it was a story of impatience, negligence, and a criminally irresponsible pilot. Jaco Pastorius. Sometimes, the worst deaths are the ones that feel like the final, brutal punctuation mark on a long, slow-motion tragedy. That's the story of Jaco Pastorius. If you don't know the name, you know the sound. Jaco was a bass guitarist, but calling him that is like calling Einstein a numbers guy. He revolutionized the instrument, a true virtuoso who played with legends like Joni Mitchell and the jazz fusion band Weather Report. He was widely considered the greatest electric bass player of all time. He was a genius. But he was also deeply troubled, battling bipolar disorder and severe substance abuse problems that went largely untreated. By the mid-80s, his life had spiraled completely out of control. He was homeless, often seen wandering barefoot through the streets of Fort Lauderdale, his erratic behavior getting him banned from clubs he once headlined. Friends described him provoking fights, breaking into homes, engaging in self-destructive stunts. On September 11, 1987, the downward spiral hit its rock bottom. After getting kicked out of a Santana concert in his home state of Florida, drunk and disheveled, trying to get on stage, Jaco made his way to the Midnight Bottle Club in Wilton Manors around 4 a.m. He was refused entry.
Nope.
In a fit of rage, he started kicking the club's glass door. The club's manager and bouncer, a man named Luke Havan, who was a martial arts expert, confronted him. What happened next was not a fair fight. It was a savage beating. Havan unleashed a sustained, brutal assault on the frail 35-year-old musician. Jaco suffered a fractured skull, multiple facial fractures, a severely damaged eye, and a catastrophic brain hemorrhage. He was left in a coma. For 10 days, he clung to life, but the damage was too extensive. On September 21, 1987, Jaco Pastorius, the man who had redefined the bass guitar, was dead. His killer, Luke Havan, was initially charged with second-degree murder, but pleaded guilty to manslaughter and served only 22 months in prison. One of the greatest musicians of the 20th century, beaten to death outside a nightclub by a bouncer who barely served 2 years. It's just a senseless, ugly end to a brilliant, tormented life. Randy, California, January 2nd, 1997. For most people, it was just another day. But for Randy, California, it was his last. Randy, born Randy Craig Wolf, was the guitarist and singer for the psychedelic rock band Spirit. You might know their song, I Got a Line on You. He was a phenomenal musician. Jimi Hendrix himself gave him the name Randy California to distinguish him from another Randy in the band. On this day, the 45-year-old was visiting his mother on the island of Molokai, Hawaii, over the holidays. He decided to go swimming with his 12-year-old son, Quinn. It was supposed to be a perfect father-son moment in paradise. Then, the ocean showed its power. A strong rip current suddenly grabbed hold of them, pulling them both out to sea. They were in serious trouble. Rip currents are deceptive killers. They don't pull you under, they pull you out, and fighting them directly is exhausting and often fatal. Randy realized the danger immediately. He knew they couldn't both fight the current. In that split second, he made a choice. A father's choice. He used every last bit of his remaining strength to push his son Quinn towards an incoming wave, shoving him towards the shore and out of the deadly grip of the riptide. It worked. Quinn was carried to safety, where he could only watch in horror as his father was pulled further and further out into the Pacific. A search and rescue operation was launched, but it was too late. Randy, California disappeared beneath the waves and was never seen again. His body was never recovered. There's no scandal here, no drugs, no foul play, just a quiet, heroic sacrifice. A man who, in his final moments, gave his own life to save his son's. It's a death that is both heartbreakingly tragic and profoundly heroic. A final, selfless act from a rock star in the quiet waters of the Pacific.